If I was starting from scratch, what would be the fastest way to become a millionaire through real estate? In this video, I'm going to share with you a couple of examples of how easy it is to actually get to $1 million worth of net equity, and I can show you how to do it in under 10 years. If you're interested, then definitely keep watching. Hey guys, my name's Ravi and welcome back to Personal Finance with Ravi Sharma. If you're new here, smash that subscribe button because I talk about real estate, personal development, and all things financial freedom. Now, I remember growing up, it was always about how do we become a millionaire? Or that guy's got a really nice house, he must be a millionaire. Now it doesn't really mean much because it seems like just to get into the market here in Sydney, you've got to have $1 million, otherwise it's not possible. So what I want to show you in this video is exactly how you can build up $1 million worth of net equity without having to just struggle, without having to go out there and say, okay, I need multiple jobs, both my partner and I need to keep working, we can't travel, and we need to save every dollar, so unfortunately we can't have the coffee either. The way that I did this was in my 20s, building up the portfolio while still enjoying life. And it's so interesting to see media articles come out, people that you still speak to that are under this assumption that you need to save every single dollar, literally eat tuna cans and live on 2-minute noodles. And that's the only way you can get wealthy and break into the property market. And I'm telling you, it's actually quite easy if you put your mind to it and follow a strategy without caring what anyone else thinks and just staying in your own lane. Let me show you an example right now. Now, for this to work, you would need the deposit for your first property. So all the associated costs, as well as the deposit, you're gonna need roughly about $100,000. Now, to get in, it could probably cost you $85,000 or $90,000, but the remaining $10,000 will be acting as an emergency fund in case something goes wrong. But let's work with that. If you're someone that's in a position where you're at 80 or 90K, you're pretty much ready to go. If you're someone that's closer to about 40 or 50K, now you'll know exactly what you need to do and what that result will look like if you actually follow this path. If you're someone who's got the equity in your property and you've got a couple of $100,000, you in fact will get to this number a lot quicker. I'm gonna say it's probably gonna take you about 6 years if you've done this really well. So imagine that. Becoming a millionaire in 15 years is freaking amazing. Becoming a millionaire in less than 10 years is outstanding. Doing it in less than 5 or 6 years is absurd, but it is actually possible. And I'm gonna show you an example of it right now. So I'm just here on the calculator site and I'm looking at a simple compound interest calculator. Now, what you'll need to do is with your initial deposit and the funds that you have, you're gonna go out there and buy a $500,000 property in year 1. So that might be next month, it might be in the next 6 months, but you're gonna start with a 500K property. So I'm gonna input 500K here, and the interest rate that we're gonna put here, or the growth rate we're gonna put, is actually gonna be 7%. Now, the reason I use 7% is because the average is about 7 to 8% nationally in Australia. Now, although this is the average, it would be nice to get a little bit more than that. And I'm so proud to say that every single person that we've helped at Search Property, the buyer's agency, has achieved more than 7%. And it's an average between 11 and 13%. So these numbers get absolutely wild. You'd achieve these goals a lot earlier, but for the sake of this video, I'm gonna use conservative numbers of 7%. Now, before I have people jumping into the comments and saying 7% is not possible, 500K properties aren't possible, it's the stuff we buy every single week. We purchase anywhere between 20 and 25 properties that fit all of our metrics, all of our due diligence process, and those are the ones that we secure for clients, and of which about 82% are off market. Deals that you will never see online, never be published anywhere. And that is the strength of having a team that go out there and do this for you. And the best part of it all is it takes about 3 to 5 weeks to get those results. So if you need a hand in finding where these properties are and whatnot, then definitely use the link in the description box below to head over to our website, book in a call with our consulting team so they can answer a couple of questions that you have burning on your mind right now. So we're gonna put 7% in here and it's gonna compound yearly. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna look at this in the period of 9 years, because that's what I probably put in the title of this video. It's how to become a millionaire in 9 years. Now you go ahead and you see, okay, that 500K property has now gone up by almost $420,000, which means that if all things are equal, you would have $420,000 that you've now generated in net equity from that property. Mind you, it's tax-free because you aren't selling that property, which means if you had the borrowing capacity, you could go in there, take out some of that equity at 80 or 90%, and then use that as a deposit for your next property. Or even better, you might be sitting out there saying, well, okay, investment properties are great, but how does this get me into my principal place of residence? Well, let's assume that you want to buy a $1.5 million house in Sydney. you would most likely need a 10% deposit, which is $150,000. Plus you got to pay stamp duty and other costs. You're looking at well over $200,000 in order to execute on that. Where do you get the 200K? Well, for the next 10 years, you could go ahead and just save your money every single year, probably not take any holidays, only to get to a point in 10 years time to hopefully buy something that's still worth 1.5 million. Because the reality is, in 10 years, it's probably not worth 1.5 million, and now the goalposts have moved out further. And because of that, now the 200K has become 300K, which is what you need to save in order to get into your property at that point. And this is why so many people fall behind, because it feels like every time you get to the goalposts move, and you keep getting to that goal and it keeps getting out of reach. This is why we have so many people complaining about how it's so unaffordable here in Australia. Now, although that is true, it is getting harder. It's not impossible to get in and build wealth through real estate. This is a classic example where you're going out there and saying, I can buy a place for 500K, I can get 7% growth, and in 9 years, I'll have 420K worth of equity. That means you could literally sell that property, pay all the taxes, you'd be left with more than what you would if you had saved every single year. This way, you get to purchase the property up front, you're probably negative cash flow for the first 2 years by 150 bucks a week, you continue renting, living your best life, travel and whatnot, and then come back in 9 years and say, okay, I simply want to get rid of this property and go and buy my dream house. Now, although many people would want to do that and it sounds tempting, I want to show you how you become a millionaire in 9 years. And I can tell you now, it's probably not doing that strategy. What you'd need to do is in year 2, you would need to go and buy another property. Now, how exactly would you do this? Well, you've got a couple of options. 1, you continue to save. And 2, you're going to use the equity from this property and you're going to use it as a deposit to now get your second property. Now that second property, assuming you've bought in a different area, could cost you about 550K. I'm going to get the editor to put this number down on the screen so that we can follow along. So right now we have $420,000 worth of equity. Now to purchase our second property, which we're going to purchase at 550K, we're going to need about $110,000. Now we'll have some of that come through savings, but we're also going to use some of that equity. So collectively, we're going to have the $110,000. Our equity position will go down, but we're calculating what this would look like in 9 years' time. Let's assume you've used about 40K from your equity, and then the rest comes from your savings. So we're going to go from 420 minus 40, and now you're sitting at $380,000. Now this number here will drop to 8 years because again, we've already done 1 year, and we want to see how much is this going to be worth in 9 years' time. And what we see is it's worth $395,000. So that means we have the $395,000 from this property in 8 years' time, plus the $380,000 from the first property, minusing all the equity that we just used. So that collectively gets us to $775,000. All you've really done here is save for the first deposit, which is why I've always said the first property is always the hardest. Yet, so many people make the mistake of saving all of that money and then buying their own place. Or even better, they go and buy something that they got told was a really good idea and actually works out to be the worst idea. So you're going backwards. In this case, it's a proven system. You keep it simple, you build the machine, and you continue living your best life. Now what you've got is $775,000 worth of equity that you're gonna have in year 9. So if you're 30, you'll get that by 39. If you're 40, you'll get that by 49. Now, that doesn't get us to the $1 million. And you've guessed it. The next thing you're gonna need to do is buy one more property. Now, in this case, you could go out there, buy property in your SMSF, and then say, yes, I've got the equity there, plus the properties I have, and you could be a millionaire. But you can't really access that. So if you are interested in building out wealth in your super fund, let me know in the comments down below, SMSF property, and I'm gonna make a killer video for you, and I'm gonna showcase why it may be actually worth the hype. So in year 1, you bought the first property at 500K, in year 2, you buy the second property at 550K, and in year 3, you're gonna go to a different area as part of the growth cycles, and you're also gonna purchase another property for $550,000. Now what you're gonna see is here, this number will change to 7 years, and we're gonna find ourselves in year 9 to have an extra $333,000 worth of equity. Now we will need to minus about 50 or 60K because that's gonna go towards the property purchase number 3. So for the sake of this, we're gonna minus $50,000 off our running total, which goes from 775 to now 725. The rest is gonna come through your savings to purchase the third property. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna add $333,000 to the $725,000, and that gets us to a total of $1.05 million. And that is how you get to becoming a millionaire with real estate with a really simple process. Now I know this stuff works, and I know that we could probably get you there a lot faster. One of the first thoughts that come to your mind is, can it really be this easy? What am I missing here? This must be a Ponzi scheme. Surely it can't move on like this forever. Now, for someone who's lived here my entire life in Sydney, been a student of the markets for almost 20 years, and personally invested in real estate all across Australia over the last 11 years, I can tell you, the market doesn't care about your feelings, and they certainly don't care about my feelings. So is this possible? Most definitely is. It's just a matter of mindset and perception. If you're someone willing to put in the hard yards for the next 3 years, you can ensure that you'll be a millionaire within the next 9 years. And it doesn't even seem that far. You could go out there and buy more property and get there even faster. Depending on what type of property you buy, you could accelerate your cash flow, which allows you to get into the next property even faster than that. There are so many things to cover off, but I wanted to give you a simple way of the fastest possible way you can do this without having to forego your life for the next 10 years. It would have felt like shit going through my 20s to buy property and just build wealth and say, oh, well, look at me, I'm a millionaire now. But I had no life, and I actually ate really shit food, and I didn't even get to travel the world. I didn't do that. I built the portfolio before I even ran the buyer's agency, took up a couple of different jobs, traveled a hell of a lot, and enjoyed my life. Thankfully, I don't have an expensive palate, so that means the occasional KFC really did satisfy me. But if you're someone that wants to enjoy life and still build wealth, this is the easiest way to do it, and I can show you exactly how. Please reach out to the team, searchproperty.com.au. I know there's this shameless plug at the end. It's like, oh my God, he's selling us something. But if I'm selling something so good, it would be unethical not to tell you that. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have, smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and share this with your sibling or your partner to show them that this is possible and you don't need to go and buy your dream place straight away. You can become a millionaire and then do whatever the F you like anyway. I hope you guys have enjoyed this one. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thanks, guys.